Good afternoon, everyone. A Friday edition of On Cue coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game remote studios. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We've got about an hour plus to play with on a very busy Friday. Hope everyone had a good Sports Thursday. You are enjoying your 6th of March, 2026. As always, get in on the conversation. We are firing off on a plethora platforms, Kicks, Rumble, X, the YouTube channel as well. Very easy to get social with me at Rich Q on Q on IG and X. You can hashtag Rich Q. Also check us out on TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. As I mentioned, very busy show. Another week in the books. You guys have been fantastic with the engagement and the comments and subbing to the channel, and means a great deal to me. So keep the subscriptions coming. That would be the best that you guys can do as far as engaging in the show, which is always brought to you by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off. Use the promo code ONQ. Also, Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Pliable, and our good friends over at Play It Again Sports. 2 locations, Mount Laurel and Deptford. I feel as though, the NFL is just, we got March Madness right around the corner. You got baseball opening day right around the corner. You got the NBA in the heart of the NBA season as we are coming into crunch time. And then you get the NFL. And I just feel as though it's non-stop the madness going on, right? I mean, if we were to kind of piggyback over from yesterday's show, we're talking about some of these quarterbacks on the move. Well, add another one to the list. The Raiders are going to release veteran quarterback Geno Smith. So we know that the Cardinals are set to release Kyler Murray. We know that Kirk Cousins is going to be looking for a home. We know Tua is probably going to be looking for a home. You've got edge rushers and tackles, getting signed, contracts, walking, talking, cashing in. And then you get 2 interesting stories coming down. And one happens to involve the Philadelphia Eagles. And this whole Jalen Carter, would the Eagles actually put him on the block, and would they use Jalen Carter as bait to lure the Raiders into trading one Maxx Crosby? Now, I would just say this. We talk a lot NFC East, as you guys know. We try to go really around the league for a lot of the displaced fans that tune in. We don't want to go 24/7 with Philly because that's going to bore you. But as we mentioned, it's a very pivotal offseason, and you got a lot of scenarios and situations that might unfold. I'm not even going to get into the AJ Brown nonsense, because if they trade him, they trade him. At this point, I don't give a crap. Point is this. You've got now a young defensive tackle in Jalen Carter. And they, meaning the Philadelphia Eagles, exercise his 5th-year option on his rookie contract for 2027. So you got a 24-year-old that's going to make $27.1 million this season, or that season, I should say, unless they sign him to a contract extension. Now, this, again, leads into the rub. Spot Track is projecting that Carter is in the realm of a 4-year, $84 million contract extension on his next deal, which comes out to about 21 to 22 annually, okay? Should the Eagles extend him now, they would be able to reduce that cap number to 2027. But there's also these, numbers that are being floated that Jalen Carter might be looking at $25 to $30 million a year. Now, I don't know who came up with these projected numbers. I don't know what they're smoking and joking. And like I said, Carter, good young player, at times can be a great player. Now, is Jalen Carter for Maxx Crosby worth it for the Philadelphia Eagles? Crosby, again, you're talking about an older player coming off a couple injuries as opposed to a younger player. Yes, I know he's also been nicked up as well. But I just, at this point, I put nothing past what some of these teams are doing, because ultimately the NFL, it's chess. It's not checkers. We're making a move to make a move to make a move to make a move. And I'm trying to match your every move. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And right now, when you look at the odds market, the prediction market, the Eagles are the favorite to land Maxx Crosby if a trade happens this offseason. We talked a little bit about the complexion of the NFC with some of the moves that these teams are making. Obviously, the Chicago Bears going a little younger from the wide receiver standpoint, trading DJ Moore to Buffalo, giving Josh Allen another weapon. You had the Rams making a big move for cornerback. You've got the Giants potentially putting Kayvon Thibodeau on the block. So the NFL, we know it never, ever sleeps because it's just, it's a monster. It's a monster. So now the news comes down that the Raiders are going to release Geno Smith. And how about the Browns? The Browns are reworking Deshaun Watson's contract to lower the NFL cap hit and the NFL high cap hit. We already know Deshaun Watson has an albatross of a contract. I mean, he didn't play in 2025. He's rehabbing the Achilles tear from 2024. And you're talking about 80.7 million cap hit in 2026, which is the largest in the NFL. So that's another quarterback. That's a situation that's interesting. And I think just fluid, right? Because right now, Deshaun Watson is going to or set to compete for the Browns starting quarterback spot, along with Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and perhaps any other quarterback they want to add on the roster. Then you have the Jets. And the report coming out of New York is that the Jets want to go with two veteran quarterbacks. One of them happens to be Carson Wentz. Now, I don't know what the Jets' line of thinking is here. Is it because Carson Wentz had a pretty good damn season under Frank Reich as an offensive coordinator a couple years ago? Carson Wentz is no longer an NFL starting caliber quarterback. He's just not. And I understand that. You got Frank Reich. He's the OC with the Jets. I understand you always want to go with familiarity. I don't know if that's worse than the Jets actually considering a reunion with Geno Smith. I mean, if the Jets want to clean up the nonsense, you're not bringing in Carson Wentz and you're not bringing in Geno Smith. And I don't even know if you're going to bring in Kyler Murray. I would probably say, is it Kirk Cousins? Is he a fit? The Jets they're in a very precarious position right now, the New York Jets, because they've got, I believe, a lame duck head coach that brought in Frank Reich to help jumpstart a dormant offense. But what direction you're going to go? You're going to go with a Geno Smith? Been there, done it, right? You're not getting Geno Smith from his nice little run with Seattle. Geno Smith was horrible. He was absolutely horrible last season. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. He barely cracked 3,000 yards. He was a turnover machine. He got sacked 55 times. Now, that's also, if you want to talk about the offensive line, that's fine. But Geno Smith is no spring chicken. He's 35. Pete Carroll decided to bring him over because that was his guy when they had a nice little 4-year run in Seattle where he's throwing 30 touchdowns, 20 touchdowns, 21. Last season, he tossed 19 touchdown passes and 17 picks, and he was sacked 55 times. His completion percentage was check down, a la Kirk Cousins. So I don't know what route the Jets are going to go. And I certainly don't know what route, some of these other teams that we mentioned from the quarterback standpoint, what their line of thinking is. Now, I'll say this, going back to the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Philadelphia Eagles believe that Maxx Crosby is that difference maker on the defensive side and Maxx Crosby gets them over the hump, then Howie always believes in his convictions. He'll figure out a way to make it work. Okay? Carter played in 11 games. He registered 33 tackles, 3 sacks, 7 passes, defended. Second straight Pro Bowl. Now, again, you look at the PFF grade, right? I think Carter's a very good player. I think sometimes you got to look past the numbers in a box score because sometimes players are double, triple. Now, if you want to sit there and say he took a step back, he's still one of the best interior defenders in football. And I think the Eagles right now, imagine the Eagles being able to dangle him for a couple first-round draft picks, dangle A.J. Brown for a couple first-round draft picks. I mean, that's just absolutely wizardry by Howie Roseman. It really is. I think you got to be careful here. Crosby is a great player, but my only concern with any team that's interested in Maxx Crosby is the injury history, the spotty injury history. And also, when you're comparing apples and oranges to him and Carter, he's also older than Carter. He's 27, 28. So I don't think the Eagles would be smart right now to turn around and trade one of the best young defensive tackles in the league, who's only 25, for a 28, soon to be 29-year-old defensive end who might be declining very soon. Because I don't believe the Eagles, to be fair, I'm worried about their offense and Jalen Hurts and that whole dynamic. I know there's some holes in their defense as well. They're still a good team, but if I'm a team like the Rams and or the Bears, I think those teams are in win now mode. And I'm not suggesting the Philadelphia Eagles are not in win now mode. That's not what I'm not suggesting that. But I feel as though what transpired late in the season and filtered in to the loss against the 49ers and all the nonsense and noise we're already hearing in its early March, I believe that's going to carry over into the offseason. I really do. I believe it's going to carry into the offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I can say this too, and I say this with a lot of confidence. Listen, we're seeing these teams right now in the NFL. They know their window of opportunity is there. Okay? They know. They have to decide what the hell they're going to do with it. They got to figure out that plan A, plan B, plan C. They have to. And that's one of the reasons that a team like the Rams turned around, and you knew if Matthew Stafford was coming back, then they were going to go all in. They were going to go all in. So you got quarterbacks on the block. You got quarterbacks, I should say, looking for a potential new home. You've got some running backs that are out there. The Texans, I believe, have released Joe Mixon. So if you got a team that needs a little depth at the running back position, hello, Kansas City. Even the Giants with Scottaboo coming off an injury. And I think they're going to see they restructured Singletary's deal. I get it. Pro's pro, a veteran guy. Tracy's still a young running back, but there are teams out there that need running backs. There are obviously teams that need a bridge quarterback. And there's certainly a team that has to figure out what the hell they're going to do on the defensive side of the ball. So as I mentioned, the A.J. Brown stuff, it's going to keep carry over, whether it's going to be a first, whether it's going to be third. When a deal's done, a deal's done. When a trade is done, a trade is done. Then we can get into it, right? But right now, there's really nothing going on. It's just smoke and mirrors. I feel like you listen to these other outlets, especially in our backyard, all they're talking about, there's more news going on in the NFL than A.J. Brown. Whereas Jalen Hurts, an elite quarterback. Is Nick Sirianni on the hot? Just stop. My God. You got so much movement going on in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills told you yesterday that this is it. Our window is now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's all on Josh Allen. I don't want to hear any more of the excuses. And oh, by the way, how about what the Bills did today? So they released Teron Johnson, who I think is a pretty damn good quarterback. And they also released a veteran wide receiver, Curtis Samuel, that most likely will latch on to a team that maybe needs that third option. Another pro in there for some leadership, a little mentoring, a guy that's solid, just needs to stay healthy. So we got a lot of NFL on the docket today, fast approaching the 4 o'clock hour on the East Coast. Don't forget, we're coming at you right here on SR 1029 FM, the game, also part of the Odyssey app. A lot of comments coming in on the Eagles, the Bills, some of the movement in the NFL. Crosby, where is he going to potentially land? I see some Jet fans chiming in. They didn't like my Kirk Cousins comment. I'll say this to Jet fans. I will say this. If you're a Jet fan, like if I gave you the lesser of all these three evils, if I said Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz, that's your bridge quarterback for the next 2 to 3 years. Who are you taking a flyer on? Carson Wentz, to me, I think is shot. I think he's damaged goods. And Geno, I don't know where the hell his head's at. He was horrible last year. Maybe it's because the Raiders were so bad, but are the Jets any better? And then you got Kirk Cousins. So if you can live with checkdowns and not taking shots down the field, I give you Kirk Cousins. All right, quick timeout. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Check out the show notes. That'll be on Q20. That'll save you 20% on your first purchase. We got it on a What the Frig Friday edition of On Q. By the way, there are some stories that have made me say, What the Frig on this Friday in early March. We get into your comments. John Bueller in the 5 o'clock hour. A lot of NFL. We'll mix in a little NBA. Oh, look at this. Joel Embiid's not going to be available again for the Philadelphia 76ers. So we'll mix in some NBA conversation as well. I want to get in your comments, though, on the other side. You can hashtag on Q. Don't forget, get connected with me on IG and X at RichQ on Q. TikTok, RichQ on the mic. Quickie timeout. We'll come back in about 30 to 60. Your comments on the other side. Keep it rolling right here as we are just warming up on a football Friday, What the Frig Friday edition of On Q on SR 1029 FM The Game, part of the Odyssey app as well on my YouTube channel and X. All right, 4:05 on the East Coast. Welcome back to a Friday edition on Q. Rich Quinuna is here. We are powered by our good friends over at SR 1029 FM The Game on X and IG. Also on the YouTube channel. You can always get social with us. Always appreciate you guys commenting and chiming in. We want to rip off some of the comments. Hashtag on Q. Let's fire them off. Our good friend Jovan chimes in. Agree 100% about Crosby. Without Carter, your inside defensive line, your interior would be in trouble. A lot of faith in Davis. Adorno, yeah, Ajamo, I always pronounce his name. Ty Robinson, who barely played. A.J. Brown, conjecture and speculation has become nauseating. I feel like the insiders are even repeating themselves. It is a rinse and repeat. Yeah, and I saw that too with the Bears, Edmonds last night. I was a little surprised by that. But yes, it is to go back to your A.J. Brown. I feel as though this is what you're getting probably with the local yokel talk because there's nothing else to talk about, or they just have absolutely like no depth and or context. I mean, at the end of the day, that's great. We can speculate all we want when it comes to if or when the Philadelphia Eagles are going to trade and move A.J. Brown. But at this point, your guess is as good as mine. And there's so much going on right now in the NFL. I mean, the fact that the Browns are reworking Deshaun Watson's contract, that tells me that Deshaun Watson is going to be in play to have an opportunity to be the Browns' starting quarterback next season. They're going to keep him on the roster. So you've got Gabriel and you got Sanders. You're going to figure out who's going to push who. you're going to figure out who's going to push who. Now, Murray getting released or soon to be released, and we still don't know what's going to happen with Tua. I'm waiting for this domino effect, right? Because you can also link Kyler Murray to a bunch of teams. You can link him to Minnesota because I don't think they're sold on J.J. McCarthy. You can link him to the Jets that don't have a quarterback right now. I mean, they do on the roster, but they don't have their quarterback, right? And in hindsight, if we're really being fair, the Cardinals probably should have traded Kyler Murray in 2022. They should have. Now, the only thing I'll say with Kyler Murray, you have to think about two things. And I'm gonna throw something out. First of all, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think one of the worst decisions the Pittsburgh Steelers are making is bringing back Aaron Rodgers, or the fact that Aaron Rodgers is going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would have just said thank you, right? Aaron Rodgers, and I know technically he's going to play that game, right? Aaron Rodgers is going to play that game because right now, we're waiting to see what's going to happen. Now, you got a couple things. Now, just follow me. And I know you guys hate when I say follow me because I'm going down the rabbit hole, which might be absolutely crazy. Aaron Rodgers wants nothing more than to stick it to who? The Green Bay Packers. Now, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is that guy anymore. But if we're talking about landing spots for Aaron Rodgers, okay, could it be in Arizona? Could it be in Minnesota? I just think Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh, it's a bad fit. I really do. I think it's a bad fit. I honestly do. I'm a little surprised at, this whole notion, let's keep flirting with each other. If I'm Pittsburgh, I go a totally different route. I really do. I go a totally different route. I don't want to bring back a 42-year-old quarterback. I don't. I really don't. He looked horrible in that loss to Houston. He looked absolutely over when he got sacked 4 times. He barely cracked 150 yards. He was horrible in that game. So if you're Pittsburgh, would you sit now and say, well, wait, Kyler Murray? I mean, now you got a young enough quarterback. Now, the only caveat with Kyler Murray is this. You damn well better be sure. Now, I don't think at 28, this kid wants to give a crack at baseball, but stranger things have happened. You better be sure that he still doesn't have rabbit in the blood. He doesn't have baseball in the blood. Because you don't want to put yourself in a situation just like with an Aaron Rodgers, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Kyler Murray singing about baseball, not football, not committed. Because that was a knock on him, fair or foul, with Arizona. Film study, this, that, the other thing. I mean, we talked about a very bizarre NFL season. We talked about a very bizarre NFL playoff. Just a season in which teams came out of nowhere, surprises, dark horses, Denver, New England, Seattle got it together. I'll give you another team that I just thought off the top of my head. The Rams are going to have to start looking past Matthew Stafford. They're going to have to. And they have an offense. They can run the football. They got great wide receiver, a hell of a tight end, a decent offensive line, a very good defense, and a good coach, right? Would a player like Kyler Murray, where maybe there's not a ton of suitors out there, can you envision a scenario where Kyler Murray's like, well, you know what? I'm a free agent and I need to re-jump my career. I need to go somewhere where I'm comfortable around a coaching staff. Well, here you go. Because who is his head coach in Arizona? Cliff Kingsbury, who's currently on McVay's staff. Now you talk about a high-end backup to Stafford, right? Matthew Stafford's one hit away from retiring, even though he had a hell of a season, NFL MVP, running it back. But I think that's an interesting scenario and a spot for Kyler Murray. And sometimes we look at a player that gets cut and released, and right away we want to throw them to the wolves and say their career's ending. But you got the Rams, you got Pittsburgh that needs a quarterback going forward over the next 4, 5, 6 years because Rodgers is not the answer. The Rams have to start thinking about post Matthew Stafford. I think that's a great spot. You learn from an all-time great. You learn from a Hall of Fame quarterback. You got familiarity with the OC. You're with a very good coaching staff. That's a team that's ready to win. And that quarterback is old and older, and he's a hit away from maybe missing some time. Not wishing it upon him, obviously. So it's it's fascinating how we look at these quarterbacks in the NFL, and we're so ready to write them off. And I don't think we should. Pittsburgh should be interested in trading for Anthony Richardson. Mike McCarthy having a chance to develop him could be interesting. That's a very good take. I didn't even think about that. I think, though, Anthony Richardson is in your – I think Anthony Richardson – I feel as though he's fallen into that Trey Lance, Justin Fields. Trey Lance really got lost in the sauce, kind of in the abyss when it comes to the quarterbacking in the NFL, like from some of these guys that right away we just kind of give up on, because I thought he was a reach, right? And it was just not a good fit. And once the kid hurt himself with the rubber band incident, and you saw that Daniel Jones and that ground game got going, and it opened everything up for Daniel Jones, who is a good football player when everything's perfect around him. The offensive line, the ground game, opened it up, put up some good numbers before he got hurt. Then you knew that Anthony Richardson's time was done, right? Let me get some Eagles comments in here. This is regarding Carter, Crosby. What do we got there? I'm high on caffeine. Q, I'm loving the fresh roasted coffee, but I'm not loving these takes. This is the dumbest of all time. Still love you, though. Hey, I'm not suggesting it. I'm spitballing. I'm regurgitating, even though I don't like to do that. We like to give you a little evergreen content. I'm not suggesting it. I went on the record and said, no, I would not do that. I just wouldn't. Theo Man chimes in. I think if this were to happen, Q, it would take a 29-year-old Crosby and picks for a 25-year-old Carter. I do see a scenario playing out where this happens, and you got Davis to step in big time when Carter was out. You had a couple other players that are also due for contracts and are better locker room guys with more emotional maturity than Carter. Not to mention, Phillips still needs contract. Nolan Smith is getting floated around too. Q, Dean and Blankenship good as gone. There's a lot of moving parts. I will say this. I'm going to trust Howie and Fangio when it comes to whatever decisions they make. They've earned it. But I do agree with you. I think this team, even if they try to run it back, they're going to be hard-pressed to win a lot of football games next season. Well, again, I said they're going to be a good team, but I don't think there's something I believe that's amiss internally with what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. You can have all the talent in the world. But for some reason, it's just not gelling and jiving. It's just not. B- chimes in. Q, absolutely not. Fickle fan chimes in. Q, no, absolutely. This would be just a stupid conversation to even have. Listen, again, you got a very good player. Now, I'm not paying him $35 million. I'm not paying Jalen Carter $35 million. I'm just not. I don't care what the hell the market says. I don't. So, yeah, I don't know. What do we got there? Joey D chimes in from South Philly. Q, did you see that Logan Paul and Bell have agreed to terms on a boxing match? 10-ounce gloves, no headgear, 3-minute rounds. Who you got? Well, I was trying to get my man Brandon Jacobs on because I know Brandon wanted to have a little bout with Logan Paul, right? So what do we got there? We got the 30-year-old 6'2". If we go through the tail of the tape, right? You got Logan Paul 30, Bell 34. It's amazing to think Le'Veon Bell decided to sit out and just totally derailed his NFL career. There's a lot of trash talking. Now, he called out other players. But like I said, hey, man, you're not You're not getting B in there for $1 million. You're just not. You're not. I can tell you that right now. I can tell you that right now. Not happening. Not happening. For 4,500. Are you serious? Ball 360. I mean, maybe I thought maybe you christen the kid for 7,000, right? But for 4,500, nah. If you're a YouTuber, right, de facto celeb boxer like Logan Paul, not Jake Paul, Logan Paul, and you're calling out NFL players, you're calling out current players, and former players would fight them. But I can tell you right now, they're not stepping in the ring for anything less than probably 5 to 10 million. That's just not happening. That's not happening at all. You and I both know that, right? I'll enjoy it too. I'd be stealing. So we talking you run around for a couple rounds? I mean, why 4,500? That's a very that's kind of like an obscure number, right? Is there something you're looking at on Amazon that's 4,500? So you last a round or two and then maybe take that little knockdown, little body shot. We like to call that the business decision. See, I can tell you from calling fights for so many years that you already know when a guy walks into the ring, and I hate to rip on fighters from down south in North Carolina, because North Carolina, the adage is when you talk about fighters from North Carolina, NC means no chance. So what happens is you just know. You get that lopsided record, upside down, B side. He comes out, a little body shot, touched up, a little soft in the midsection, didn't take the fight serious, maybe talking on short rest, trying to bank a couple grand for a 4 or 6 rounder, goes down in the second, a little overwhelmed in the third, late in the third, decides now it's time where I can get back on the bus and go back home. So we call those little business decisions, right? Just an arbitrary number. All right, that's fine. 4,500. All right. I feel like, these arbitrary numbers. What was the movie with Mel Gibson? No, not The Passion of the Christ. Not Lethal Weapon. Where he they left him for dead. I feel like a lot of those movies are like that. Payback, right? Was it Payback? And he had a very obscure number that was owed to him. Oh, Lucy Liu was in that, and I love Lucy Liu. I think it was like 75 grand or like 72,000. Like that was the number. 72,000, right? He wanted his cut. Porter was his name. He wanted his cut. And every time he wanted 70. He wanted 70. And they were like, where'd you come up with 70? It was just like, he's like, it's a nice roundabout number. But it was a very obscure kind of number. Good movie, by the way. Director's cut. Very, very good. Kevin C chimes in. Q, I would actually move Thibodeau right now. The Giants, looks like they're going to put him on the block. I mean, I always thought that was a stretch of a draft pick. And you're kind of seeing it right now. There's going to be a sentiment of Giant fans that believe the kid can play. Now, I'm not, again, Kayvon Thibodeau he's a good football player. Okay? He's a good football player. But you gotta go back and remember a couple things. When you draft players in the top 5, top 6, well, you better perform like it. Kayvon Thibodeau was a first-round pick. He was 5th overall pick. Okay? He was the 5th overall pick. So let's just kind of go back. And if you look at his numbers, he was drafted to get to the quarterback. He was drafted to get to the quarterback. And, we saw the one play, right? You saw a flash, right? The flash. And that was against Washington. He had the forced fumble, the strip sack, the recovery, the first touchdown, right? That was like a tease. That was a tease. And then he played really well in 2023 in a couple games, right? He had 2 or 3 sacks and a forced fumble against the Jets in that overtime loss where Brian Daboll refused to let the friggin' quarterback throw the friggin' football. I believe it was DeVito. And then you had, the wrist injury, missed some time. They exercised the fifth year option, right? But then he had a down year and again, dealing with some injuries. So, needless to say, he's been a bust. I mean, I hate saying it, but that's the reality. When you're drafted number 5, the expectation is in that position, you're going to be a game wrecker. And he just hasn't been. He just hasn't been. And the one thing, that I don't know, it, he's not a mature kid. He's not. Now, he had a couple moments this past season, but for number 5, no, come on. Lucy Liu is all serious business, and she should be. I'll tell you who I love. Not only do I love Lucy Liu, but Maggie Q. Oh my goodness, love me some Maggie Q. I just and she's in a great. She was in Designated Survivor. She was in a Protege, but there's a show, and I believe it will re-up for season 2. Ballard, fantastic, fantastic. She's phenomenal. I absolutely love myself a little Maggie Q. No pun intended. All right, 422, quick timeout. A lot more comments coming in. We got some Raiders fans chiming in, Bears fans, Bills fans. We got a lot of NFL, a lot of movement going on. And oh, by the way, this is, what do we call this? A tampering period, right? Because you kind of already know. Like the tampering period or the legal tampering period starts Monday, March 9th, officially 3:59. But let's be honest. Teams are already doing little backdoor, backyard deals right now, right? Negotiating with agents, not directly with players during this window. We know. We know. We'll get into that. I also want to touch a little NBA. Jeremy Lin, who had his moment in the NBA with Linsanity, had some very interesting things to say regarding the NBA. I want to get into that as well, time permitting. All right, so keep it locked in. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side, and we will get you guys situated as well. Quick timeout. All right, 425 on a Friday edition of On Q. As always, Rich Quinones here. Get social with me on X and IG at Rich Q on Q, TikTok, Rich Q on a Mike, and certainly follow along on the YouTube channel, Rumble, Kicks, Millions, SR 1029 FM The Game. Don't forget to download the Odyssey app on a What the Frig Friday edition of On Q, which made you say, what the frig this week in the world of sports. And I got to say right now, I'll hold off a little bit on the NFL talk. I want to get into this. We got plenty of time with the NFL, but this NBA stuff going on with Jeremy Lin, this made me say, what the frig? So Jeremy Lin, the insanity. I think Jeremy Lin, aside from Michael Jordan, was the only athlete to ever be on SI in back-to-back weeks. I got to fact check that though. But anyway, he basically confirmed the NBA is rigged after recalling a game where he was going off before his team got a call from the league telling the coach to pull him and another player who was having a game. Now, think about that for a moment. And he's been very vocal since his time in the NBA has ended. He's been very vocal. And I think Jeremy Lin's a well-spoken guy. But alleging an NBA game was rigged and you got a call from upstairs, right? The little bat phone. Now, he didn't specify which team, okay? Now, he did say he scored 20 through 3 quarters, and then he added his assistant coach allegedly told him he wouldn't be going back in the game in the fourth, despite their team's lead shrinking. He said, quote, I had 20 and 10 after 3 quarters. We were up by about 15 to 18. And in the fourth quarter and overtime, I didn't play 1 second. He goes, yeah, we got the call from above and you're done for tonight. Now, how much stock do you want to put into this? You're talking about a player that had his cup of coffee with insanity, played for 8 different teams, right? A little glimpse of magic, no doubt, with the Knicks. And then the rest of his career kind of fizzled out, right? And I don't know if he's currently playing over in China. But to me, you have an accusation, right? Like this. Do I put, how much credence do I put into this? Now, when a guy like Dominique Wilkins, you're talking a legend, a Hall of Famer, Dominique, if you recall, made similar accusations years ago where he basically kind of gave somewhat of the I don't want to say word for word, but pretty much the account. Pretty much the same account that Jeremy Lin did. I apologize for that. I just fired something off. Pretty much the same account. So now the NBA has been dealing with what over the last several seasons? Absolutely the nauseating episodes of tanking, right? The nauseating episodes of basically the load management, the nonsense, right? The tanking for better draft position, the load management, the stars sitting out, the betting scandal, which I told you, not only are heads going to roll, but guys are going to start throwing other guys under the bus. Okay. Never mind. That's Grace Park. Oh, okay. All right. That's all right. We got you. No worries. But I appreciate the clarity. So you got all this going on with the NBA. And he's basically coming out and he's saying that these games are friggin' rigged. Now, how does the NBA address this? What does the NBA do? What does the NBA say? Because everyone knows the NBA is under the microscope. Everyone knows the NBA. It's an unbalanced offense. You've got way too many three-point attempts. They run and gun. They get out. They play matador defense. You'll get eventually a little ISO, the pick and roll. Here we go, but it's 1-on-5. The ball's never touching anyone else's hands, and boom. So I think these comments are fascinating because Adam Silver, kind of pick and choose when he wants to stick his head out of the hole. The fact that Adam Silver is basically, working so hard to prevent tanking and come up with new draft lottery systems and change everything, it tells me that he's scrambling. I mean, he is absolutely scrambling. And oh, by the way, I didn't even get into that whole, I don't know if you heard the thing with the strip club mess, right? Which is another conversation. Right? The whole Luke Cornett, right? About the Magic City, the Hawks, the promo, the stripper night. And again, everyone's got an opinion. The Atlanta Hawks basically have this Magic City night. So it's a special promo, an event scheduled. I believe it's against the Magic the 16th of March. So the PR team of Atlanta kind of framed it as a celebration of an Atlanta cultural institution. That institution is a strip club. So they're gonna have, they're gonna have like the wings, they're gonna have the A team, the B team, the C team. I don't know, maybe, have a little little hot toddies out there. Who knows? So point is, the NBA's got so much nonsense going on right now and so much to worry about. They really do. I mean, they got their head so far up there, what, and then you get a player or an ex-player like Jeremy Lin that obviously, what he's saying is catching some attention. And you kind of want to know, okay, is this legit or not? I mean, you got the acting, you got the tanking, you got the load management, you got so much going on in the NBA. Yeah, LeBron got another. I don't care. LeBron can keep getting record after record after record. He can't touch number 23. I don't care how many records at the end of the day, right? The LeBron James gets. I don't care. And chimes in, Q, I know you're talking NBA, but the fact that the Eagles are actually floating Jalen Carter in trade talks, what does that send you? Well, a couple things. It's a very good question. You got to look at one thing and I'll get back to the NBA in a second. When you are talking about players that are young in the NFL, that are impact players, just put that on the shelf for a second. Now, you got that on one side of the shelf. Then you got on the far right of the shelf, young impact players that maybe aren't mature and miss a little bit of time. And I think if there's any smoke fire to this, I think the only reason the Philadelphia Eagles, now just again, bear with me, the only reason the Philadelphia Eagles would contemplate this is because they're worried about Jalen Carter's injury history, getting hurt, not being available. And maybe that's scaring them away of a big monster lucrative deal. Now, you can counter and say, well, hold on a second. Is Maxx Crosby not injury prone? I get it. Maxx Crosby is coming off an injury-filled season. I'm not, there's no argument. There's no argument, right? He missed 5 games 2 seasons ago, and he missed 2 seasons, and he's coming off, surgery. But he also had 10 sacks, 12 and 14 and 7. He's got 70 in his career. So he's had 3 seasons where he's had 10 or more sacks. Okay? Now, I'm not suggesting he's a better player than Jalen Carter, but at this point, you got to call for what it is. He's been around the block. He's a game wrecker. So if you want to give the edge, but you want to hedge it and say, well, he's older and coming off an injury and Carter's younger and kind of banged up, I get it. Apples, oranges. But I'm trying to answer what the commenter wanted me to answer. So anytime a team is a little reluctant, especially with guys it's different with the quarterback. Sometimes you're forced. Your hand is force. Okay? Sometimes your hand is force to turn around and pay a guy and pay a quarterback. I know sometimes you don't want to deal with it, and sometimes you're kind of reluctant, i.e., when the Giants turn around and gave Daniel Jones 4 for 140 because he won a playoff game on the road. And I think if you gave the Giants truth serum, not the best move, right? So the quarterback is a little different position, but you've got a 24, 25-year-old who I believe can be a game wrecker, but he does need to stay healthy. And I think he lacks maturity. Now, I'm still not trading him, though, but I'm also not going to pay him and break the bank. because they have other players that they need to pay. So both things can be true. Can they not? They can. It's not a bad situation to be in, but I also feel as though you got to be very careful when you're going to break the bank on players, especially young defensive players, man. Are you paying them for what you believe they're going to do, right? And that's really the only conversation you should be having. It's not like a guy, quarterback, 5-6 years in the league, 4 or 5 years in the league, won a playoff game. Well, we're kind of rewarding you for past success. A lot of these young players defensively, we're paying you for what we believe you can do. And right now, Maxx Crosby is the name out there, right? And everyone's gunning for Maxx Crosby, and someone is going to break the bank and give up a lot, right, for Maxx Crosby. They are. The Raiders, they're going to dangle, and we want 2 first-round draft picks, plus a 2 and a 3, or 2 2s and 2 1s. Phil chimes in, Q, I don't want to trade Carter, but you bring it up. The value of these 2 things is closer than people think. Jalen Carter is $40 million a year. I see. That's where I stopped the conversation. I mean, you got Moro Ojomo, right? I'm not paying him $40 a year. I can't rationalize that. I can't reconcile that. I can't. I think you got to be real careful when we start having that conversation. Real careful. Look, the Packers just released a very good defensive end, Rashawn Gary. He's had, big seasons with the Packers. He's 28. He's had close to 50 sacks with the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers were dealt with some bad injuries, i.e. Micah Parsons. Everyone was looking at the Green Bay Packers. You're going to change the complexion in the NFC, let alone the NFC North. So they turn around and they basically now, if we're really being fair, you're talking about a player that's coming off a season where he had, I think, 7 or 8 sacks. He's a steady Eddie. That's a good football player. That's a good football player. I mean, to me, if I'm the Giants, that's a player I might want to bring in. If I trade Thibodeau, I'll bring in a player he can prove he's gotten to the quarterback. But then you ask yourself, well, why in the world did the Packers cut him? So you have to just kind of put it in, again, you got to kind of put it in perspective, right? And ultimately, you had a player that played 7 seasons. And again, they were either going to trade him or release him. That's really it. I mean, that is really it. Now, if you're sitting there, well, why are you doing that? It was a 4-year, $96 million deal. Now, good player, but again, 4 years, $96 million. Did he play like a $96 million player? No, he didn't. He didn't. And down the stretch last season, he was somewhat invincible. But I would still right now take a flyer on him if I'm a team that needs depth and you know what you're getting. But when they sign that contract, the expectation is you need to play like a $100 million player. And the Packers only lost 4.3 in cap space. So now they're going to be in the market for an edge rusher. And we know Micah Parsons, he's not going to be ready in week 1. So you got to, again, you got to take it on face value. You really do. Everyone sits there. When a guy gets cut right away, we got to grab him. Geno Smith cut, Mixon cut, Gary cut. There's a reason these guys are cut and released. Sometimes it's a numbers game. Sometimes, again, they wore out their welcome. Sometimes the team's going younger in a different direction. We've seen it. Joe Mixon became expendable because Houston turned around. They grabbed the running back from Detroit, Montgomery. So he's expendable. The Chiefs are sitting here and they're moving some players, and we know what they're going to do in the draft, but there's a reason they decided to trade a good cornerback, right? Not a great cornerback in Trent McDuffie to the Rams because they were getting back picks. They got a 29th pick, first round. They got 5th round, 6th round, 3rd round pick in 2027. And then you got what transpired yesterday where Chicago trades a solid wide receiver that's probably could be number 1 with the Bills, but they wanted to go young. And Buffalo turns around, and what do you get back? 2026 second round pick to the Bears. And the Bills, I think, also grabbed a 2026 5th rounder along with more, which tells you that if the Eagles are going to dangle A.J. Brown, they're going to get first round pick. So there are reasons that some of these players get released and cut quickly as soon as we can flip the script and we can move on. So Gary's a good player, right? You know, the quarterbacks that we talked about earlier in the show, some of these guys they're just not good anymore. They're just not good anymore. Carson Wentz is not a good quarterback. Geno Smith is not a good quarterback. You know, Tua, I don't know what's going on with Tua in Miami. Everyone's waiting to see that domino. You know, how is it going to drop? And I told you, I think, and I, full transparency, I came on the air and I said at the time, the Dolphins need to pay him. And they paid him 4 years, $212 million. Okay. And we talked about all the upside because, again, when they were running the football and they were slinging it and they were moving it and scoring points and he wasn't getting concussed, he looked like a franchise quarterback. But then you start to take on the injuries. And now the Dolphins are in such a bad spot because even a team that's potentially, they know they're desperate for a quarterback because if they can't even get a bridge quarterback, they're going to be horrible. You know, this is when coaching staffs and coaches that are on the hot seat that don't have quarterbacks, they scramble because they know they might get fired. So any team that wants to take on Tua, they got to deal with that albatross of a contract. The Dolphins are going to owe him $54 million in 2026, fully guaranteed. That is a huge, huge number that you're dealing with. An absolutely huge number. Sarge chimes in, Q. That's fascinating stuff on Jeremy Lin. I haven't seen that comment yet. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's interesting stuff because of what the league has gone through. We got a lot more NBA comments we'll get into in a moment. DB, yo, what's going on, brother? Appreciate you chiming in on a Friday. What are we talking about? Depends on the cost. Depends on the cost. I need context to that one. Brother. You think it over. You mull it over. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Pliable. Fresh roasted coffee on Q 20%. That'll get you savings as well. 443, quick timeout. We got a lot of comments coming in. We'll break them down on the other side. Hashtag on Q. And as always, we're powered by our good friends over at SR 1029 FM, the game, part of the Odyssey app family. If you like the content in the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Back in 60. All right, fast approaching 5 o'clock on the East Coast on a Friday edition of On Q. A lot of NBA comments coming down, a lot of movement in the NFL. We're already seeing it. In regards to the NBA, kind of a full slate tonight in the association. You got some, decent games. The Celtics I did mention this the other day. I think uh, the optics right now, right? The complexion of the Eastern Conference changes dramatically, knowing that Tatum is going to come back. Brown's been playing like an MVP. I mean, he's been a beast. Averages under 29, 7 rebounds, under 6 dimes. So you got the NBA tonight. You got Jeremy Lin's comments. As I mentioned, the 76ers back in action tomorrow. They're traveling to Atlanta to take on the Hawks. The reason I bring up the 76ers is because the news coming down regarding Embiid, he's going to be reevaluated in about a week. So Embiid's not going to be available. And this is, again, I just feel like we have this conversation week in and week out, right? Because now you got that oblique injury, reevaluate it. He's already missed 3 games. This is just a rub where I went back on my channel and I found the segment, I found the show, and this was 2 years ago. Jonathan Marshall and I did, talking NBA in his weekly spot. And at the time, we both said 2 years ago, 2+ years ago, trade him now. Trade him now. And we got hammered for saying it. The fact that Embiid is missing more time, that should be alarming. Now, I don't think this team's makeup is that of an NBA championship team. I don't. But if you look, the 76ers have been a bad basketball team over the last 12 games. They're 5-7. Now, they're sitting only half a game out behind the Orlando Magic and Miami for that final playoff spot in the East. And I don't know what that really means ultimately going forward, because you're talking about a team that's, they don't have Embiid. They've been without Paul George. They've had some inconsistencies, right? A lot more pressure is now falling on Edgecombe as well as Tyrese Maxey. Drummond's got to step up, right? They know they're missing their star big man when he's healthy and engaged. But again, man, here's the problem with the Philadelphia. And by the way, they didn't even show up the other night. They didn't even show up. But now, again, you're always talking about a player that is injured. So he's going to miss games against Atlanta, Cleveland, Memphis, Detroit. I would say 3 or 4 of those are going to be tough games. They're going to be tough games. But this is who Embiid is. I mean, he is a player that's always had, he's been damaged goods. He's been damaged goods since they drafted him. Robert chimes in, Packers fan. Gary, good player, not a great player, Q, but as you mentioned, he cooled off late in the season. Well, we touched on it. There's always a reason why teams, cut and release guys. Mel chimes in, big time Rams fan. Q, I would actually be fine with Kyler Murray as a backup, knowing that we do have to look past Matthew Stafford. Yeah. He's young. Again, you would reunite him with Kingsbury, who's on McVay's staff. And I think Kyler Murray wants to prove he belongs in the NFL. Now, he gave you flashes, did he not? But again, talk about the draft position, overall pick. Here we go. I think right now with the impending free agency and the Cardinals pretty much taking care of any type of financial commitment towards him, you look for these quarterbacks to do what? Rehab their career, right? Rehab their career. And I think too, which is really interesting, Dante Moore decides I'm going back to Oregon. So I'm probably going to turn down 50-something million in guaranteed money to avoid the Jets. Kyler Murray's probably going to avoid, the Jets, right? So I think you've got a dual threat passer. I think McVay would salivate, Murray as a project. Matthew Stafford comes in. We run it back one last season. It doesn't work out, or maybe they win a Super Bowl. He rides off in the sunset. He retires. And then boom, Murray steps in with that offense. Not bad. Not bad at all. I think Kyler Murray, if given the chance in the right organization, the right fit, I've always liked Kyler Murray. But again, from where you have been drafted and the numbers you put up and the fact that you haven't been able to take this team very far. That's an issue. KJ chimes in. Q, do you think there's any realistic chance that the Jets make a move for Mac Jones? Came in well, played in well when Brock Purdy went down. Can Mac Jones? Okay, so can Mac Jones be that reclamation project? If you think of Mac Jones's career early on, bouncing around, and then you look at a guy like Sam Darnold early on, bouncing around, can Mac Jones be that Sam Darnold? Now, that would be an interesting conversation. Mac Jones, humbled, understood what's at stake, spelling Purdy for a little bit, playing good football for the 49ers, playing within himself, and winning some games, keeping that offense going, keeping them pretty much in check to get them ready for the playoffs and kind of weather that storm with Brock Purdy going out. Mac Jones would be a very interesting, I guess you can say, case study to see if he's moved around and he could potentially be. There's always, we always want to know who's going to be that next Sam Darnold or who's going to turn their career around like a Baker Mayfield. And Geno Smith was able to turn his career around and had a nice little run in Seattle. And then, everything kind of, everything went south and, turned back into a pumpkin. All right, fast approaching 5. Quick timeout. Bueller in the 5 o'clock hour from Fansided. All right, fast approaching to 5 o'clock on a Friday edition of On Cue. Again, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Check out the promo On Cue 20, Pliable and Belmar, Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Play It Again Sports, 2 great locations. They're still taking all your baseball equipment and your golf equipment with spring around the corner. They'll give you best bang for your buck. 2 locations, 1450 Clements Bridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey, and the new store in Mount Laurel. So we touched on a lot of the NFL. I did mention the Jeremy Lin comments in the NBA. I got a lot of comments regarding that. We will get into that, but I want to kind of keep the NFL conversation going. We welcome in our good friend. I feel like we haven't seen him in a while from Fansided. John Bueller does a great job as a writer and, of course, does a bunch of podcasts and blogs. Appreciate a couple moments, brother. How you been?
Long time no see. It's just that time of year, man, where like stuff's going on. I get it.
No. Hey, listen, I appreciate the flexibility. I mean, I finally got through that 2-month stint overnight, and now it restarted back up this week. So I had like 1 week break, and now we're back at it. We got the basketball overseas. We got the boxing this week, and we got a lot of stuff, but I'm glad I got you in for a couple of moments. All right, so it's been madness in the NFL. I mean, it really has. I don't even know where to start. I guess let's go backtrack a little bit. We've been talking a lot about these quarterbacks. Geno Smith's going to get released. Kyler Murray, we know, is going to get released. We don't know what's going to happen with Tua. You got your guy Kirk Cousins out there. The Jets need a quarterback. The Browns are reworking Deshaun Watson's deal. I mentioned Mac Jones before you came on. That might be that trade chip. So if you're the Jets and you're looking, I need a bridge quarterback right now. There's reports that Frank Reich is enamored with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz can't play anymore.
No.
He's just a shot quarterback. Carson Wentz, Geno Smith, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins. Like I'm just throwing four out there for you right now. I mean, it's like the lesser of one evil. Like which quarterback would you sit there right now and say, I'm comfortable league minimum bringing this guy on because I think he can be a bridge for the next 2-3 years?
I like Cousins with the Jets. I think that makes a lot of sense for me. And look, he's going to get cut with day one of free agency by Atlanta to save a lot of money. When he's healthy, he played pretty good the last couple of years. You're going to have kind of more of an adult in the room. You also know with like Frank Reich, like you kind of got like an OC at quarterback anyway. I think the problem with the Jets is the Aaron Glenn of it all, who's like falling asleep during the combine. Look, I don't know if it's going to work out for Dante Moore deciding to go back to Oregon for one more year, but he's like, look, I don't want to go play for the Jets.
A
But
50
like,
million. I just mentioned it before you came on. You're talking. I'll go back and I'll turn down 50 million guaranteed money.
yeah, like it's interesting because Oregon lost both of its coordinators of note because you've got Will Stein taking over at Kentucky and Tosh Deploy on defense taking over at Cal. They're all promotions from within. I think it's Drew Maringer is the new OC there in Oregon, but like if that guy was available, the Jets take him right there. That's your easy solution, but you don't have that. I think the other candidates out there, again, Wentz, no way. I could see it working with Kyler. Just kind of depends on where he may want to go. If Penix isn't healthy, I'd love to have him in Atlanta. I think Miami is a possibility for him as well. Reading of the Raiders is going to go with Mendoza, and then I think Arizona needs somebody too.
I think they might stick with Brissett, who had a pretty decent season, right? And came on. I mentioned Kyler Murray. To me, a good fit would be the Rams because the Rams eventually have to start looking past or ahead after Matthew Stafford retires, and that would reunite him with Kingsbury, who's now on McVay's staff. Can Kyler Murray, and I don't want to say have that Sam Darnold, but I feel as though can Kyler Murray be Sam Darnold? Like, Kyler Murray had more success, we would say, early on in his career than Sam Darnold. And then Darnold bounced around, Carolina, 49ers, and now Seattle wins the Super Bowl. But, are you giving up on Murray right now?
No, I think this is kind of like a wake up call for him. I think he's come to realize that, I got to be a better teammate. Again, not every quarterback is this. Jay Cutler wasn't a good teammate, and he had success after leaving Denver with the Bears and stuff. So maybe there's some sort of second act out there for Kyler Murray. I think like you said, I think that the Rams could be an interesting fit there, but like you're not drafting a guy unless you're like enamored with Ty Simpson at 20 in like the 20s or something like that. You got to expect that like Stafford's going to play maybe this year and one more after this because he's pushing 40 now.
Yeah. How about Mac Jones? I mentioned that I think the 49ers, they got to clean up that defense. So maybe they dangle Mac Jones out there, even though you got to be a little worried with Brock Purdy's injury history. Can Mac Jones rejuvenate his career and maybe Mac Jones be that Sam Darnold?
I think that's very much within the realm of possibility there. Didn't have a whole bunch of starts at Alabama, just that one season during COVID. Had that really good year with the Patriots, then kind of fell off. It does seem that anybody who plays in Kyle Shanahan's system in San Francisco is going to be successful. I think the concern is like you're going to have to trade for him. It's going to cost you draft capital. So if you're San Francisco, are you worried about the fact that Purdy's injury prone? But I think Mac Jones will make this. He'll use this year to his advantage to get a pretty big deal next year if he doesn't get traded.
Yeah, it is. It's just crazy, really, when you think about it. Because I also mentioned if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't want Aaron Rodgers coming back.
No,
I don't, and maybe now I can get one of those younger bridges, right? So it's like, you know, if I know that Aaron Rodgers always seems to have 1 foot out the door, right? And Aaron Rodgers is 41, 42. He's not that guy anymore. We saw it against the Texans. He had a little flash against the Ravens, and a lot of that had to do with Harbaugh not taking a couple extra yards to make it a manageable kick for the rookie kicker, right? We don't need to rehash that, because if he makes that kick, maybe he's not the Giants head coach. But if I'm Pittsburgh, knowing I got McCarthy, and a couple guys brought it up, you got Anthony Richardson, perhaps, but why not Kyler Murray? Like, I get it. You try to go that Fields route. They wanted to resign him. He took the offer with the Jets. He got paid more. I just think they're in no man's land right now.
Yeah, I think the streak of them winning 9 or more games in a year is over. Like, I understand that Mike McCarthy took this job because, like, he's from Pittsburgh. It's a dream come true. But I think this should be kind of like, a grace period here for him. Like, I'm not opposed to Kyler Murray or Anthony Richardson, just to see if you can like catch lightning in a bottle here, because, like, otherwise you're gonna have to take Ty Simpson at 21, and that's not ideal. I think he's a good player, but I think he got a back injury there in the Rose Bowl. And again, like, I think Simpson's going to be a good player, but he only had that 1 year worth of starts there at Alabama.
Yeah. I mentioned this on Thursday's show with the moves that some of these teams are making. Like, obviously Kansas City trading a pretty good cornerback, not a great one, but getting draft picks, restructuring Mahomes' deal, hoping he comes back healthy, probably not going to be ready for the start of the season. Mixon was just released because they signed Montgomery, did the Texans. So we know that Kansas City needs a back as well. Then I mentioned the Buffalo Bills, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on Buffalo, because, teams like the Rams base their moves on the belief that Stafford's coming back, which he is.
Right.
Buffalo right now, they're looking around the rest of the AFC, and they're still kicking themselves how everything played out. If you're Buffalo, you're Josh Allen. I cannot allow any more excuses for Josh Allen. And I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. I just can't. You have a weapon. You've got receivers. You got a tight end. You got a line. You've got your OC, who's now your head coach that you're familiar with. You got a running back, and we just trade for DJ Moore. So do you feel right now in the AFC, the window, even though we're in March, the window right now, it's still a crack open for the Buffalo Bills. But if they don't do it this season coming up, they're never going to do it.
They're never going to do it with the remnants of this core. Like, Josh Allen's young enough where maybe you could win it like later in his 30s when he's like John Elway did. But like with like Joe Brady as the OC, James Cook in the backfield and stuff, like, it's got to happen this year. It's not happening.
Steve chimes in. What's up, guys? Found you listening on. I subscribe. Great show so far. Appreciate that. Man says, buckle up. Yeah, we had the buckle up moment, I think, early on in the show. My skin was about to crack a little bit. If I'm the Steelers, I definitely don't want Rodgers back. What do we got here? Rodgers can always just be a backup teacher for a franchise he can elevate in the front office. Aaron Rodgers never, ever, ever going to be a backup. Can you envision a scenario where Aaron Rodgers decides, let me just call up Minnesota and let me try to stick it to Green Bay twice a year? Look, Minnesota, if you gave them truth serum right now, do they believe McCarthy's the franchise quarterback?
No, he never was. He's terrible. He stinks. He's awful.
Wow. I mean, tell me how you really feel. So was that a lot of gaslighting there by Harbaugh?
Oh, he was telling him all the plays in the playbook, basically. Like, McCarthy was like a blue chipper coming out of like Illinois by way of the IMG Academy. He's just Zach Wilson 2.0. That's all he is. He sucks.
What is the overreach with these guys, though? That's what I don't understand. And then the problem is too, like, the whole Daniel Jones Tua. We see a glimmer, a flash. The only reason the Giants paid Daniel Jones is because they went on the road. They won a playoff game in Minnesota. He played well that season, and they give him the 4 for 140 that bites him in the ass because they're paying him for what he did, not what they believe he's going to do. And the other problem is I have with some of these young quarterbacks too. Are we over-evaluating, under-evaluating? Are we giving up too soon on them? Or are they just not really first-round graded out talent?
I think there's a coaching problem in the NFL. I think that's the biggest issue. I think it's like you're churning through all these head coaches so quickly. There's not enough good coordinators there to actually teach. So you got a lot of guys in the college game who, there's some people like, I mean, how many snaps under center did Baker Mayfield have at Oklahoma, Michael Penix Jr. at Indiana or Washington? Like, there's a steep learning curve here for all of them, and for as talented as they can be, they gotta learn. Offensive linemen got to learn how to pass block and stuff, and road grades. So I think it's kind of more of a coaching epidemic there, like in the NFL, that's hurting these kids. I mean, you got Zach Robinson calling plays for the Falcons, like, and you got to hire by the Bucks. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and coaching staffs are everything. They really are. I need to just address and call out, man. You were going to crack on a Friday. I typically crack on a Wednesday, on a Woosah Wednesday. Does someone accurately say Eli didn't deserve the Hall of Fame this year? No, that wasn't it. It had to be a foolish Eagle troller, several that chimed in, actually trying to cross-check me on my Carter take. I would not trade Jalen Carter if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles for Maxx Crosby.
No.
And but I wouldn't break the bank and give Jalen Carter the money that's being floated around. Like, Jalen Carter to me is not a $30 million player a year. He's not.
I mean, I got Jalen Carter right behind me over there. Whatever, this 30 right there. He's a special dude. He has the potential to be Warren Sapp. He's a little bit of a head case. That just is what he is. He's in a perfect spot for him in Philadelphia. And even though I think Maxx Crosby could be like a good like face of the franchise for you, I don't necessarily know if he has that extra gear to be as good as what the Raiders are paying him. So like there's faults with both, but there's also a lot of upside with both. I think just kind of leave well enough alone here, man.
Is it possible the Eagles, though, are a little hesitant to give him that monster deal because of his injury history? And look, he's younger than Crosby, and Crosby's also had a spotty injury history. But what I'm saying is, I don't see the fact that Cincinnati had an opportunity to trade Hendrickson last season and they chose not to, and now he's going to walk. I think now, okay, plan A, we're not going to give up Carter for Crosby. Plan B, now we can bring in a guy like Hendrickson.
Yeah, that'd be very Philadelphia savvy. That's something that Howie Roseman would do. And not that he won't pay players, because he will, but like I think like he likes to get the most out of his first rounders when he has them under the rookie contract. And then at that point, the dollars and cents have to make sense first. And with Carter, I think that like if you're paying him on past production or what he could be, you're leaving a lot to chance here with the guy who's just a total wild card of a personality.
Yeah. But that's the other thing, right? Steve chimes in, depends on the moves Patriots make for Buffalo window, if you ask me, because if they get A.J. Brown or they get Alex Pierce, Isaiah likely, like they say, I'm waiting to see. Man, I'm telling you, these moves, these teams, basically, they're all trying to play chess out here. They really are. Like, Kansas City believes they can figure out a way to get back to where they once were. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. Pittsburgh, I think, is just in flux. They're in limbo. They're like the 8th seed in the NBA, right? They're going to toil a little bit, and you can insert quarterback to work under Mike McCarthy. The Ravens with the overhaul, you still got Lamar, you got Derrick Henry, but now you got a new regime with the coaching staff. Like, it goes on and on and on. I think the constant is a little more consistent in the NFC. Like, I feel if there's one season the 49ers don't get injured, if their core players do not get injured, they have enough talent to compete with the Rams and Seattle. Because I believe right now the Rams and Seattle, by default, especially Seattle, they're the two best teams in the NFC. They're here.
Yeah.
Green Bay, Chicago, Philly. I'm a little more high on Chicago than most. They're there. So I just, to kind of answer the comment, these teams are looking around, especially in their division, and they realize, okay, we got an area of weakness. We got to try to fix that area. We got to try to match what some of these other teams are doing. But the Eagles, to me, they don't operate like that. I don't believe Kansas City operates like that. I see that a team like the Giants might do that in the past, or better franchises are looking around and they're worrying about what other teams are doing, and they're driving around, but they're not looking under the hood and realize that the car, it's a shoddy engine.
Yeah, I think they're the teams that you mentioned that are well run and have like a lot of success in recent years. Whether that be Philadelphia, whether that would be Kansas City, like there's some built-in equity with what they do from a front office standpoint. I think with the Chiefs, like we got to get Mahomes some younger players around. Honestly, you got to get a little bit younger on the coaching staff. I think what would probably serve them right now is with 9, just take Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame and just hand the ball off a bunch.
Yeah, and I feel that's what they're going to do. I feel like they're going to draft a running back. My man Coach Rick says one day, one year, these larger than life QBs will get back and stay as a backup to your franchise quarterback. But I digress. It's never. I'm telling you why. Because it's about ego. It really is. I mean, listen, Kirk Cousins was holding a clipboard with your Falcons, but I bet you Kirk Cousins wanted to start because there is pride factor. There's an ego factor. Now, I don't know. You probably know the exact number, how much he was getting paid to be a backup. No one's complaining in that regard, but these guys all have egos. Aaron Rodgers is well past his prime. He's 41, 42. Aaron Rodgers is not going to play in the NFL unless he's a friggin' starter and unless he has carte blanche and he can bring in his guys, even at this stage of his career where he's well past the twilight of his career. Like the days of, yeah, I'll be a mentor, I just don't see it anymore.
His mentoring days are over if they ever existed to begin with. Like, look, the second he's not a starter anymore, he's going to disappear off the face of the earth. Like, he'll resurface at like some future game, like Jake Plummer does. Like, that's what it's going to be. He's going to go live in Europe. Like, he's not going to be at front. He's not going to be at front office. He's just going to. He may pop on the Pat McAfee show every once in a while, but like that's just because he's tied with AJ Hawk. But like the
And he
instant
gets paid, I think, $1 million. He gets paid a nice little chunk of change for an appearance.
well, there you go. At that point, like, just take the money and get out of here. He's a Hall of Famer. We'll see him in 5 years when he gets into Canton.
Yeah. Make a break for the Ravens this year. I mean, I don't know how you say it's not, right? I mean, you've got Lamar Jackson in his prime. You still have arguably one of the best backs in Derrick Henry. You got a good tight end. They got to figure out what the hell's going on with that defense. And you're bringing in a head coach that you think can elevate your offense to another level that Harbaugh couldn't. And I also think that division's weak. Pittsburgh's not good. I'm sorry. Cleveland's not good. Cincinnati, you can score on them. They still have Joe Burrow, but I think almost by default, how do you not favor the Ravens?
I mean, they made the best head coaching hire of anybody this offseason, like unbiased. I think Jesse Minter is fantastic. I know we both hired guys. You got Harbaugh, I got Stefanski, which people like and everything like that. But Minter just kind of seems like that was kind of like the next up and coming defensive mind. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say it's a make or break year because that was last year. And I think there may have, I think Harbaugh forcing Zach Orr and everybody on defense really hurt the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson's got to step up from a leadership perspective. They got to get a wide receiver here at some point. I mean, do you draft like Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State at 14? Is that gonna change the game here?
Right.
All I know is the division stinks, and you gotta win. Like you gotta take advantage of that.
How about going after a Pierce?
I wouldn't hate that. I mean, like Indianapolis doesn't really know what they're doing, and
the think about what they just did. They did the rare tag on Daniel Jones. I think that was a mistake.
Yeah, you got new owner syndrome with the Carly Ursay-Gordon running the shot here, so we'll see what happens there with the Colts. I mean, I'd love to have the job security of Chris Ballard. I can't believe he's still doing it, man.
I agree. I like this. This is a real good comment because I agree with it wholeheartedly. I don't see Kansas City getting back, trading away your best corner, something they've done 3 times in the last 6 seasons. Chiefs need pieces. I don't think they're going to get them this year. I still don't believe the Chiefs, even with Mahomes coming back when he comes back healthy. By the way, I made a point that really riled up Chiefs Kingdom. Think about this for a moment. Patrick Mahomes, let's just say conservatively, misses the first 4 weeks of the season. Does that seem accurate or fair?
Sure. Like I can see that happening.
Okay. All right. Okay. So just, take a walk with me. So we'll say the first 4 weeks, what the NFL is going to do. They're going to backload them with the Jets, Miami, the Raiders, because they need them to be relevant a month into the season for when Patty Mahomes comes back. So, again, when the schedule comes out in April, but to Steve's point, Look, Denver, I don't think it was a fluke. I think their defense is really good. And the Raiders, as much as we mock them at times, or most of the time, they have a good tight end, a great tight end. They got a running back. They just need to know how to utilize him. They're going to draft Mendoza. They're bringing over a very good coordinator, now a slash head coach. You've got the ear and the knowledge of Brady, and they have a lot of money cap wise. And if they trade Crosby, you know they're going to get some more draft picks. Like I think the Raiders can be that team, 3 to 6, and then maybe in 2 years 8 to 9 fringe playoff team, right? And then you've got the Chargers where it's almost like throw a dart. So to Steve's point, Kansas City, they got to understand that their run might be over. They still might be a playoff team, but getting back AFC championships, getting back to the Super Bowl, I don't know. I'm not buying it right now.
It's going to take a fantastic draft out of Brett Veach, which he could do. He's one of the better GMs at that. But you like I said, you can't keep getting rid of cornerbacks and expect to stay upright in a pass-heavy league. But you're spot on there with the Raiders. Like Mendoza is going to make a huge difference. He's the most enthusiastic person of all time. He's going to be a breath of fresh air to the Raiders. And it would not shock me if Chiefs Raiders play like something like Week 3. I don't know if you play at Arrowhead or the Roomba, but like maybe the Raiders win. Maybe that gives them some false hope. Maybe that gives them momentum. And I think that maybe that rivalry could be what we all thought it frankly should be. So I do think with the Chiefs, though, the best thing you got to do is just give the ball to Jeremiah Love a bunch and see what happens.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I think the reason that they traded that cornerback was they knew he's due for a contract extension, and I don't think they wanted to pay him. Good cornerback. I wouldn't say great. John Beeler, kind enough to join us for a couple of moments at Fansided, does a great job, logging dirty, does all the stuff with the college football. So speaking of college football, now you never speak ill of those that have passed. I have gone on the record. I can't stand, never have liked Notre Dame, but the passing of Lou Holtz, where do you kind of put him for what he's meant to college football and obviously Notre Dame in that institution?
I actually talked about this with my colleague Cody Williams on the most recent episode of Fall Start. I mean, the news of him passing, like we knew Lou Holtz was in hospice care for about like a month or so and everything like that. And the news broke, late on Wednesday, like, okay, yeah, lose time's unfortunately up here. But there's really two things that stand out about Lou Holtz in the world of college sports. I think the first is like he still casts a major shadow over everybody at Notre Dame. Like it's been about 40 years or so since he was like winning national championships there. And Notre Dame's had some great teams since, under Brian Kelly, now under Marcus Freeman, but like they can't quite get there. I'd say Barry Switzer kind of does the same thing with Oklahoma too, even in the wake with like, Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley and now Brent Venables. Like when you have a head coach that's that iconic, that's the standard. Like we could have had that with Ohio State with like Woody Hayes, but Tressel won and Urban won and Ryan Day won.
Right.
But like that just kind of shows that the coaching chops that Lou Holtz had at the peak of his powers. And then I'd say like I learned a lot from him. Like I didn't really remember him like coaching at Notre Dame when I was a kid. Like I remember him a little bit at South Carolina, but like watching him debate Mark May while Hawaii is going on, like I learned a lot from what they would do before
listen, they had when he took over Notre Dame. Okay. So he left Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame was just a laughing stock, man. They were just an absolute joke. And second season, right, they go to the Cotton Bowl. Now they lost to Texas A&M, but then the following year, you go back. You want to know anything? You want to learn anything about Lou Holtz? Go to that '88 team. I mean, they were unbelievable. I mean, they were undefeated. They just rolled in the Fiesta Bowl. They beat Miami. Remember the Cons versus what was it? The Catholics versus the Cons, right? They ended their 35 or 36 game regular season winning streak. I mean, look, I mean the legend is there, right? And people forget too. He had a cup of coffee as the Jets head coach back in '76. So
yeah, with the Jets, I think he started with William and Mary, coached NC State.
Yeah.
Arkansas had a really good run there too, and then wasn't super great at South Carolina, but like what he did kind of laid the foundation for what Spurrier did after him, and that was the peak of Gamecocks football there. So yeah, winning always kind of found a way around Lou Holtz, and you don't see guys in their 80s trying to pick fights over social media with Ryan Day. That's what Lou Holtz is 1-1, man.
No, you don't. All right, I will get you out of here on this. I mean, do you even want to talk about the debacle that is your Atlanta Braves?
Oh my god, like they're like jerks in profile. Like, what are we doing? They won't sign like a pitcher. It's apparently all that the Braves are doing is just acquiring territory around the Cobb Cloverleaf. It's great.
What'd you think about Profar with the 162 games?
Uh good riddance, man. Like he embarrassed the Braves. He embarrassed Curacao in the Netherlands. Like I I can't believe it. Actually, I can believe it because it's the Braves, but the team's decent. We'll see what happens this year. I don't necessarily know if they're going to do anything if they make the postseason. You're vying with like the Mets and Phillies for the division. Two of those three teams will probably make the postseason, but yeah, it's not been a very good offseason for the Braves once again.
I would say that the Phillies, they are the odds-on favorite to win the division. I think the Phils and the Mets are kind of one Mets, right below. Washington's not going to be good. I just, Miami might surprise people because they
Yeah,
played well, right? July and August. The Braves, to me, I just don't know. To be quite honest with you, I mean, you're talking a team that was what were you 76 and 86, right? Now,
mhm.
do you like Walt Weiss as a manager? I mean, are you happy with that move?
It makes sense for what they need. I think it was just kind of like a little bit reactionary to like, okay, Snit's cooked. We got to like move on from this here. I think they really wanted the bench coach for the Dodgers, and he said no. But Walt Weiss, like he played for the Braves. He's had success as a player in multiple places. Been on the staff for a while. Everybody in the team seems to like him. So this kind of feels like okay, let's try to keep everybody in the same direction. See if we can just out talent our way out of this. But bullpen should be good for Atlanta. The starting pitching is going to pull back a little bit. If the bats can hit, that'd be great. But I don't know. I'm not expecting a whole hell of a lot out of the Braves this year. If they make the postseason, that'd be wonderful.
I think the Marlins, if their win total is anywhere between 73 and 76, I would actually lean towards the over in that one. You have anything going on with the Falcons blog or college football? What do you got cooking?
Uh, let's see. Just trying to figure out who the backup quarterback's going to be alongside Penix. It's going to be great here. Apparently, we're getting new uniforms, which is cool. I don't know. It's hard to get fired up for the draft. You don't have a first round pick.
I
Uh,
know.
but I did hear Ian Cunningham said like this is the last year we're only going to have 5 picks. So that leads me to believe that the triumvirate of him, Matt Ryan, and Stefanski could work. And then on the college side of things, some college football like what's spring practice is going on, and then obviously I cover college basketball too. So March Madness is about to be on us, and my Georgia Bulldogs are going to make the tournament. So I'm really excited about that.
We're going to hit on that next week. We're going to hit on a
Yes,
little with March Madness right around the corner. So, all right, brother, I'm glad we were able to get you back on. I appreciate you working with my schedule. And I know sometimes it can be a little fluid, but always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for the insight.
you're welcome. Take care. See you next week.
All right, there you have it. Our guy, John Bueller from Fanside. Oh, I can't wait to talk a little college hoops next week. All right, 524. Quick timeout. We'll put a bow on the show, and then we'll get some of your comments before we get out of here. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at SR 1029 FM The Game, part of the Odyssey app. We'll be back in 30. All right, a couple of minutes to play with. Let me rip off some of these comments. Raiders still trying to figure out their new culture. I think it's a good start with bringing in Kubiak and obviously Brady. Chiefs never pay the cornerbacks. I looked it up. Chiefs trade them away every time. Wow. It's time for them to get paid. They have a pattern in history. I think they're still always away. Interesting. I did not know that. I mean, I know they in recent years, I didn't know they traded their cornerbacks as much as you say. I'll take your word for it. They're definitely. I think they're retooling. I think Baltimore is the odds-on favorite to win the AFC North. I think Denver. All of it, it really does hinge on if you think Patrick Mahomes is going to be ready week 1, and I don't. I think it's probably going to be a week 4. And let's just say, even if it is, they're going to get some gimme games. Just stay rid of it. Matty Ice chimes in, Jet fan Q. No, please, no Carson Wentz. Hey, I'm not reporting it. Connor Hughes reported it that they like Carson Wentz because of his ties with Frank Reich. I'm not agreeing with that. I think that's absolutely ludicrous. Tom D in South Philly chimes in, Q. I would actually trade Carter, believe it or not. I think he's an immature kid. I think he's talented, but I'll take Maxx Crosby. Yeah, but Maxx Crosby, 28, 24, right? I'm not breaking the bank for Jalen Carter. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Franchise chimes in, Q. I know you talked about this early on in the show regarding Jeremy Lin. Do you really think the league is rigged? I remember years ago, I had Tim Donaghy on, and he was talking about how it's very easy for these referees to manipulate the outcome. Now you're talking about teams pulling players off the floor. That's exactly what Jeremy Lin said. I mean, that's Dominique said it a couple of years ago too. And Dominique Wilkins is a Hall of Famer. Jeremy Lin, cup of coffee in the NBA. I know he played 8 seasons, but he had to flash with the Knicks. I don't know. I think this is something we're going to talk about a little more next week. Now, for those that are tuning in for the first time, appreciate the comments. You guys subscribing to the channel. You can also catch up on Rumble Millions, but the YouTube channel is where the show lives. We will be back in the saddle tomorrow. Yes, a Saturday edition. We're going to preview a little boxing. We got the fights later on in the night. We got some overseas hoops later on in the night. But just in case any NFL news comes about as soon as we get off the air, we want to kind of carry that over to a Saturday show. Then back in the saddle on Monday, working on our good friend James Hasty, former cornerback with the Kansas City Chiefs. Lloyd Vance, NFL Insider, is going to join us. Costco on college hoops as well. Jonathan Marshall, get on the NBA. Steve Gardner on baseball. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get the notifications. Appreciate everyone tuning in on a Friday edition of On Cue, brought to you by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, Pliable, Get Ready with Tea, Three Brooks Bourbon. For those chiming in for the first time, thank you. Appreciate it greatly. Check out the notifications for a Saturday edition tomorrow, a little rapid fire. We'll go around the NFL, touch on a little NBA too, give you some plays and picks. For the others, we don't see you on a weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. You guys have a wonderful Sports Friday. As always, be safe, be sound. Appreciate you tuning in to this Friday edition of On Cue. I'm Rich Quinones. Hasta luego, buen día.